Hi everybody, Troy from the Do-It-Yourself World and the Off-Grid Project. I promised you this video, and here it is. This is the Tasco game camera that I was using for security here at the Off-Grid Homestead. And this failed on me quite miserably. Now, I found out that Tasco brand is owned by, whoops, upside down camera view, Tasco is owned by Bushnell. So I contacted Bushnell and told him about the camera, and you can see the rust inside there. And this thing has failed miserably, so that the people who were here, and I did a video on that and showed you how they were bragging openly about how I didn't capture them on camera. They're so bold, they vandalized my property, stole from me, and openly bragged about it on YouTube in the comments, openly bragging about it. Sadly, the internet is the Wild West yet, and there isn't really any way to prosecute anyone unless you're rich. So this is the camera that failed on me and allowed people to get away with stealing from me. I called Bushnell and talked to the customer service, and I said, your camera that I bought, which should still be under guarantee, has failed on me. And he says, well, what has failed? And I said, well, the thing leaked water while it was strapped up and in use, and it destroyed my very expensive batteries, which were $30 in rechargeable C batteries, sorry. And you can see the corrosion in the battery tray here, that it ruined my batteries. It destroyed my batteries. And I said, it leaked water. And he laughed. He said, ha, it leaked water. And I said, well, yeah. I said, it was full of water. I poured it out. When I opened it up, I poured water out. And I said, isn't it supposed to be waterproof? And he laughed at me again. And he says, these things aren't waterproof. He says they're water. No, he didn't even say water resistant. He says, you're not going to find a game camera on the market that is waterproof. Now, isn't that funny? I bought a camera for outdoor use, and I guess I assumed, stupidly, that it should be waterproof. And he laughed at me. He literally laughed at me and said, there's not a camera on the market that's waterproof. Well, that's funny, because I've been looking around and there's a lot of cameras that say waterproof. I mean, they're supposed to be outdoors, right? So that was pretty much the end of my conversation with these guys. And he said I could send it in at my cost, and if they found there was a defect in the device other than leaking water, because it's not guaranteed to not leak water, then they will replace it for me. But obviously, since it's not guaranteed to not leak water, and that's what it did, then I'm out a camera and out a very expensive set of batteries. And I haven't tested the memory card yet. I don't think it was damaged. It doesn't look like it was corroded. But there was enough water in it to destroy the LEDs and make it rust on top. So I would not advise anybody to get Tasco or Bushnell game cameras, because they're not waterproof. And that's what the guy told me clearly. He laughed at me and said, there's not a camera on the market that's waterproof. So I won't be buying anything like this again. And that's my experience with the Tasco camera, and why my security failed here at the Off-Grid Homestead. I had it latched, I had it cleaned. There was no gunk on the seals and gaskets. I had double checked it, and just to make sure. Actually, I always double check my gaskets and seals. I'm always quite careful with that stuff. Even the screws inside are corroded, so there was a lot of moisture in there. This camera will never work again, and neither will the batteries that were in it. They were expensive rechargeables. So, in the future, when I buy a game camera, I'm going to make sure it says guaranteed waterproof and make sure that it is going to be waterproof. These cameras never were any good. You guys remember when the raccoon was running around and eating my chickens? That night I caught a 7-second video segment out of, in that same night, the raccoon devoured a chicken piece by piece by piece, pulling it apart through the mesh of the chicken wire. Well, 2 of these cameras were facing at the chicken coop. That was my little chicken tractor that time. 2 of these cameras were facing at the chicken tractor. One was set on video and one was set on photo. The photo camera never took any images at all that night, and it was only 10 feet away from the chicken tractor, with the raccoon going round and round and round and round and ripping the chicken to pieces. That camera failed completely. Well, the other, I don't know which was which, but the other camera did a single 7-second segment of video. It might have been 10 seconds, I don't remember, but out of the entire time that raccoon was devouring a chicken. So these cameras were no good in the night either. And I've noticed that they had often failed on me during nighttime use. Often I would see my own self, I would capture me after I set up the camera and walking away, and they would capture me coming up to the camera and turning it off. So they did not serve me well at all, these Tasco game cameras. Now granted, these were the cheaper ones. I did get them on discount, and they were the cheaper, lower ones on the market, if that makes a difference. But they were really terrible for, even at 10-foot distance, for capturing anything at all. They caught me very well coming and going, but they never caught animals on the camera, except for that one time ever. So I would not advise getting these cheaper Tasco cameras. Again, I'm not speaking for the better, higher end ones. I don't know what they have, but since the way they laughed at me at Bushnell, I'm not going to buy their products anymore. I do expect better customer service. So, alright everybody, Troy from the Do-It-Yourself World and the Off-Grid Project, and why my security failed at the Off-Grid Homestead.